Hello students! We have studied in our previous video how to find mean, median and mode. So let's say you have been given some random data to analyze and you have been asked to find most typical value of this data or what is the average value that will represent this whole given data. We know that there are three tools to find and analyze the data: the mean, median or mode. But the question is which one to use, whether mean or median or mode. Well, most often people jump right away and start calculating mean or average, as it is the simplest and most common way to analyze the data. But hold on for a second and think, is that always the best way to go, using mean? Let us ask whether mean is always best measure to analyze all types of data. Let us answer this question and understand with the example. Observe this set of runs scored by a cricketer in 7 matches. Here, if we observe, all the observations are in a narrow range of 80 to 100. So for such kind of data, mean would be a good representative. And we can find mean of this data as x bar is equal to sum of all observations upon total number of observations. So here, we add up all the observations and divide it by 7, since we have total 7 matches. You can see mean obtained is 89. So the mean obtained is 89.43. So we can say that average runs scored by a cricketer for 7 matches is 89.43 runs. But now students, observe this data, which shows marks obtained by 7 students out of 100 in a given class. So if I ask you, tell me from the data how students are performing in maths, or let us say, what is the general sense of this class in terms of performance? As we can observe that out of 7 students, 6 are scoring marks around 30s. So the performance is not that good. Only one student is outstanding and doing extremely well, scoring 99 marks. This kind of extreme data value, which is far away from the rest of all the values of data, is called as an outlier. Outlier can be very small or can be very big, just like this example, as compared to all other data values. Thus, outliers are those values of data which really don't fit in a pack. So the question is, can this outlier affect or change our mean? Let's see. First, let us calculate mean of this data. And to do that, just add up all the values and divide it by total value, that is 7. Doing this, the average for this data turns out to be 43. Now you can just observe that 43 doesn't really seem to represent how the class is performing. As we see, all students are down in 30s. But this outlier, the very high 99 mark, pulled up mean of this entire data to a higher side, that is 43. So it affected our data. Thus in this case, when we have a higher outlier, mean is not the right choice as a representative of the data. Then how about median? Recall that median is the middle value or middle observation in the whole data set. To find median of this data, let us first arrange this data in ascending order. So what's the middle value? Since number of observation is 7, which is odd, the median of this data is 7 plus 1 upon 2th observation, that is 4th observation, which is 35. Thus, 35 is the mean of this data. So here we see that 35 is much more accurate way to represent this data rather than mean, which was 43. Now what if data has a lower outlier? For example, observe this data. It has values ranging around 25 to 30. But there is only one value, which is a lower outlier 2. Therefore, here also mean will certainly not represent the data accurately. Since the lower value of one observation 2 will bring down the value of mean to 23, which is not the correct value. Let us find median of this data, which comes out to be 28.5. So students, we can observe that as compared to mean, median is more correct and accurate value to represent this data. Here, the median is 28.5, and observe that there are 3 values before and 3 values after 28.5. So, it is an accurate value to represent this data. Therefore, in such cases where there are extreme values in any given data, mean is not a good representative of the whole data, while median is more appropriate representation. But what about mode? Students recall that mode is the most fancy observation or most repetitive observation in the whole data set. Students, every time we might not get data in the form of numbers. In some situations, we require to figure out the most frequent value or most popular item. For example, to find most popular TV program being watched, the consumer item in the greatest demand, the color of the vehicle used by most of the people, etc. In such cases, mode is the best choice, since we don't have numerical values to calculate mean and median. So students, you can see that in all cases, we are asked to find one representative value, but they aren't in numbers. In fact, they are characteristics which can be found out using study of trend, and which is why mode is the most preferable method to represent the data. Now students, let us take one example and understand it better. Say cost of living index for some period is given in the following continuous frequency distribution table. Find the central value for the given data which represents the whole data. So students, first let us analyze the given data. Observe that given data has numbers, so mode is obviously out of our concern. Now observe the frequencies carefully. We find that frequencies given to us do not have any extreme values. They are in the range from maximum to minimum. So in order to find central value for this data, mean would be a preferable choice. Also students, we are not asked to find out most trending value or most repeated observations. So we cannot use mode as a representation for this data. Thus we find mean of the data. Now choice of method to find mean depends on situations. Here let us use direct method and find the mean of this data as shown on your screen. To find mean, first calculate xi, that is class mark, using formula upper limit plus lower limit divide by 2. And then calculate product fixi. And use the formula sigma fixi upon sigma fi. Doing that, we get mean of this data as 1769. So students, we now know that in which situations mean is preferable, median is preferable, or mode is preferable as a representative value for the given data. In our next video, we will learn about relationship between all these three, mean, median, and mode.